Well, at least they don't do content aimed at kids, right?
Hi friends! Today we're talking about something super cool called pronouns.
Well, that's terrifying. Lily Tino is a trans TikToker, social media influencer, and OF creator. She's a problem, a menace, a true danger to the people, the children that she tries to educate, but not only to them, to the trans people that she represents. To the point of the majority of the community leaving her in the dust. She fakes being misgendered for attention, she refuses to ever admit that she's wrong, attempts to educate minors on trans issues whilst also plastering OF creations all over her wall, and overall she's just terrible. Lily Tino is a creep. So hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Jake Baz, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive on a cretin. Lily Tino is the tale of a TikToker who started in November 2022 with the admission to try and promote her transition journey that she was going through, and at first it was light-hearted, acting as an information hub for the problems and struggles that she went through daily as she went through this transition. As you can see, she has changed quite a bit since that time, and I do think at first it was genuinely very well thought out and put together. But as the going got tough, she really did change up her content. She started getting a lot worse, and this is just the start of it. Throughout this spiral, she's been addressed as a Karen for all of her snarky comments and emotionally manipulative remarks. Been caught in loads of scandals which are now piling on her desk, and very recently having allegations thrown at her because of the way that she was acting around other creators in the same sphere. Her house is falling down, and we're here for it. If you enjoyed this video at any point, please do hit the like and sub. I would love to see you back. Helps out the channel a lot, and we're getting to 30k. And honestly, I kind of need reparations for having to drag myself through all of this. First off, I think it's very important to look at the harm that she does to children by pretending to be someone called Miss Rachel, who is an influencer who actually teaches kids about certain things. And basically, she's done a bit of a spoof of it for attention as like a rage bait. And although it is for attention, it's still grim.
Hi friends! Today we're talking about something super cool called pronouns. Pronouns are little words that help us talk about each other. We all have pronouns. Some people use he and him, like this bear.
He can't talk because he's a bear, and she is already jarring me off.
Some people use they and them. Oh, like this frog. They like to hop. Can you say he's so cuddly? Good.
I mean, it's just a bit weird, isn't it? It just don't feel right. On the face of it, educating around these issues to children is something that does kind of need to be opened up with, but can you really do this? Like, can you do it like this, considering what you do? She's pretending to be this Miss Rachel so that she can be pushed on TikTok to unsuspecting families that will look at this, watch it, and potentially think, oh, this is a good idea to show this person. Let's teach our kids. But then when you end up looking at it and they're an OF creator and they also do some very, like, disgusting things, it's not right. Like, yeah, I'm trying to educate children, and then you go and do this.
Today on my stream, I will be trying a ding-dong. Wait. No. See, I'm also trying things that are filled with cream.
Same account, by the way. It's the exact same account. Like, imagine as like a parent, you're going through this, you're showing a child one thing, and then next pops up this. What do you do? I think it's going to be a bit harder to explain that than it is pronouns to children. She also did another one that was educating children on trans people, which, as we'll get onto, this is the tip of the iceberg, and there is a lot more as to why the trans community don't even majoritively accept her. You can only wonder why.
Now I want you to imagine that everyone keeps telling you that you're something else, even though in your heart, you know who you are. Wouldn't that make you sad inside? People who feel like this are transgender. And if you're not transgender, it's super easy to be friends with someone who is.
Don't want to be friends with you. It's just really weird trying to teach children this sort of thing, whilst also having an account which is totally in against the sort of thing that children need to be looking at. There is so much backlash on these videos saying that you shouldn't be teaching children, and I don't really see why not. Although explaining being trans as to imagine someone's telling you you're something you're not, that means that you are. That's not really how it works. There's plenty of other ways that you can feel like that and not be trans. And once again, although I do know that this is just attention bait, it's still so bad because people unsuspecting are going to go go and see this and then potentially take it to their children. And also this kind of content is naturally going to be pushed to the younger generation anyway, so I find it very odd. Lily Tino definitely does a lot of stuff which are insensitive, which is why, as I say, a lot of the trans people that do actually experience these sort of problems, they actually disavow from the franchise. But it's not in a sense of, oh no, you're not, because she is a trans woman. It's more so because of the way that you present yourself on social media, which only causes harm to trans people. We see a similar thing with another woman that I do cover called Elphaba, who is a TikToker who is just she's a lol cow. She's one of the worst people that I've ever seen on social media. And she uses the fact that she is trans a lot of the time to try and peddle off people to say that you're being transphobic around everything I do. And it's not that, you're just a twat. But Lily Tino, in a similar vein, she does horrible things on social media and she really doesn't read a room and does stuff for engagement bait, which really sets a bad precedent and makes that a lot of people think that, well, this is what they're all like. Obviously not true. Obviously not the case, but she really sets a bad example. The 1% ruin it for the 99%. And the perfect example for these are her misgendering clips. She posts a lot of them online because when she's on TikTok Live, she may get misgendered and she does make a fool of herself, really, in the way that she handles things. And there's quite a few examples, but the biggest example is this one because she genuinely didn't get misgendered.
Radish is like a, oh my gosh.
My job is say the correct review.
Thank you. Thank you. Did y'all hear us, sir? Did y'all hear us, sir? I think I might have heard us, sir.
She just wasn't misgendered. This leads her, though, to go and dig even further into it.
Unclear.
How we doing?
That's good. Thank you. I think the guy who dropped the food off called me sir, just so you know.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I will talk to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm like 80% sure.
I'll talk to you.
Thank you.
He knows better, but I'll still make sure.
Thank you.
This obviously leads the server to get in trouble for misgendering when that literally didn't happen. I do feel like in this clip she has genuinely gone out and said it because she thought potentially there might be a slight chance, but then she's actually tried to engagement farm it and bring it further down the line. All that happens in the video is the guy has a bit of an accent and he says, more anchovies. So what you arguing for then? But to be fair to Lily, this isn't even one of the worst ways that she's reacted. There's plenty more. This clip really did spark a lot of anger, which led to a lot of people, if you go into her comments, they're terrible. They're totally transphobic. With so many people calling her sir because of this situation. And this is the problem. She makes it so divisive. She makes it such a problem herself that there are literally people going into her comments now and being horrible for the sake of it to insult her, which comes off as literally transphobic. But in these, she definitely likes to mug herself off.
It looks like he's having a nice feast.
She, her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
But it was not all good.
Hi. I use she, her pronouns. I'm not sir. Oh, sorry. Yeah, like it's like a knife in the heart. I did specifically ask ahead of time not to be called sir.
This is a TikTok compilation from her actual TikTok. Like, this is being cut up by herself. So at the start, she's showing one which is genuinely like a mistake, an honest mistake, which gets corrected. With her then saying it's not fine because someone ends up doing it and she's like, it's a knife in the heart. I'm just going to go. Well, make your mind up. Which one is it? It's worth noting the older generation are finding it harder to actually transition to using these sort of terms, which are more gender inclusive. But the way that you could teach anyone to be more gender inclusive and actually not misgender you is to, you know, maybe actually be honest about it and be nice about it. Saying that, oh, it's a knife, like, that's not going to do anything. That's going to make the person feel guilty and annoyed. There's a difference between education and just being an arrogant prick for likes on social media. As a cisgender white man, I cannot experience this sort of stuff, but it doesn't mean that I don't understand that this is the wrong way to treat it.
Very good. Thank you so much. No. Yeah. Thank you. I'm not a sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I get called sir. I feel like I need to tell him that hurt. It hurts more, though, and it's not intentional because it means like this is sir to him.
It's a shame it happened, but I feel that if she didn't have a camera stuck in her face while she was live streaming, she would have acted a lot differently around the situation. As well, these servers in these restaurants are just trying to be as courteous and as kind as possible, and there's a lot of times where they use sir or madam. It's just a slip of the tongue, unfortunately. And the caption of this TikTok is use gender neutral language, which sometimes is appropriate and can be done, but it's just genuinely a thing which has to be trained into people over time. It's not like there's going to be as many people as educated or understanding as you. And this assuming gender sort of thing really does irk me for her, not because of specifically what she's saying, but the fact that she is actually doing it herself. Because you're saying to use gender neutral stuff, but then you don't mind doing it yourself.
The guy who dropped the food off, he called me sir twice in a row.
The guy who dropped my food off, he called me sir. That's all.
And that's a very important point, because I have seen this going through her catalogue. Like, she does assume people's genders, which to someone like me, for example, who presents as a man, I obviously will not mind that at all. And obviously to the servers in these restaurants, it's probably not going to annoy them either, because they're all about 40. And by age, I mean they're just in a less understanding era about this sort of issue. So assuming their gender is going to be perfectly fine in their eyes. But you cannot go around and you can't say, let's make sure we use gender neutral pronouns, and then you go and do it yourself. And I do think this is a slip of the tongue from Lily Tino, because she doesn't realise what she's actually doing totally is in against what she's trying to say. And you see where the problems start to get a little bit intertwined. And the problem is when she does this, she ends up being the boy who cried wolf, because she's done it so many times and she's even faked it having happened to her before, that when something genuine does happen, it's the boy who cried wolf. No one knows and no one cares. For example, in this clip here, there are some lads that come up to the camera and they are misgendering her intentionally. The clip, in my opinion, is very justified. I do think what they're doing is very wrong and they're trying to make a point and a joke about it. But all of the comments are terrible. They're all really negative about her, calling her sir, saying very nice man, keep spreading kindness. And yeah, she was a bit of an asshole to these kids, but at the same time, they have come on to this, they've been horrible and aggressive, and it doesn't justify the comment section that's going on. But that's exactly why. She's the boy, well, the girl, let's not get into that cried wolf. And with the plethora of other things that I'm going to show you, it paints it further that she is just wrong. But this child baiting, which I did show at the start, it has been something that has gone through quite a lot of what she's been doing, especially recently. I don't know why. She seems to think that doing this childish stuff works. Explaining things that have happened to her in a very simplified and weird term, and it just really freaks me out. For example, here, about getting her balls chopped off. The stuff that I do for you, I don't know why you watch.
When I got my cake pops removed, I specifically asked my surgeon to leave the bag intact. That's because down the line, if I wanted to use my cake pop stick and turn it into a donut, the bag can come in handy. There are a couple methods that use the bag itself, but the one that I'm referring to is called the cake pop stick inversion method.
Like, why would you explain it in this sort of terms? I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you got your testes chopped off, but why have you kept the rest? I'm not bothered, but why are you telling me this? It's obviously bait and it's obviously for attention, but using these childish terms around her cake pops, it's horrible.
Once the lining is in place, they can take the bag and use pieces of it to create the exterior of the donut. I probably wouldn't do this method if I were going to get a donut, although I'm not sure I want one in the first place.
So she's just keeping her options open. Fair enough. I just wish you didn't explain it like you have, but I'm also kind of interested to click the link and find out.
Not self-glaze. You are going to have to manually glaze your donut every time you want to serve it. I'll cover some of the self-glazing donut options in a future video.
We'll get onto it as well, because there's another situation that happened like this which caused a massive backlash, but just mention that this is in Disneyland. This is while she's in Disneyland. She sat on a table explaining stuff like this with potentially quite a lot of kids around. I'm sure there's no negative consequences to doing stuff like this around children. Also, I didn't really want to learn about lube techniques. Where are we going with this video? I need to focus. But like I said, originally a TikTok was made to try and promote these problems and issues that she's gone on a journey through everything. And, well, she shows a pre and post, getting the cake pops removed. She's just brilliant.
Was for my second circumcision when I was 6 months old because the guy who did it the first time botched it. I'll update you soon.
Thanks for telling me that. I needed to know.
I lived and I'm cake pop free. Feeling a little loopy right now. That's true. It's very good. It was good. It was success. Great. It was very nice.
Now, I'm so proud to have shown you that. Let's go past it, because there is a very genuine reason why she's done this, and it's so that they can stop producing as much testosterone, which obviously hormonally helps, but they've not got rid of anything else. They're not sure whether they want to get rid of their piece. And you see a lot of people on social media in the responses and replies especially that are saying that this is because she wants to sort of fetishize the trans movement in a sense, with a lot of people also essentially calling her a crossdresser, and that's not true, is it? Just because you don't want everything taken off, it doesn't mean that you have to. You don't have to as a trans person. You don't even have to go through any sort of hormonal therapy or anything to identify as a trans person, because it's how you feel inside. It's nothing to do with what you have to do, what operations you have to do to get to that point. If she wants to keep a ball bag but get rid of the balls, fair enough, go for it. But also, this is why she's such a danger to society. Please remember once again that these sort of videos are also coming with these children videos, which, I mean, it's just so weird. But if there's one thing that we do know about Lily Tino by this point, is that the stuff that she does is quite inappropriate, at least on the face of it. Like, if you want to enjoy and show your journey from coming from a man to a woman, for example, that is totally fine, but there's ways of doing it, such as not doing like children content in between it for rage bait. And this inappropriateness seems to have followed through into some of the stuff that she's doing. And for example here, where there is a very recent controversy that she got herself totally muddled in, which I think does show the problems of Lily as a person, as well as the way that she handles things. Someone called Colleen, who is another trans creator, came out about Lily Tino saying that there was a bit of a weird one going on, because she has been going round and she's been trying to be very inappropriate with this other creator. Both of them do OF, mind you, but this situation's weird. This all started here with this video.
And I still feel really weird about it. And if I could save one person who may be a victim in the future, that'd be great with me. A few weeks ago, Lily Tino tried to coerce me into having sex with her using her status as a trans influencer, with my wife sitting right next to me. I was first introduced to Lily by my wife, who was a member of her Discord server, and she would always tell me about all the hate Lily would get, and I eventually just had a soft spot and was like, hey, let me contact Lily, because I understand how bad it can feel to have the hate mob on you as a trans influencer.
And as we say and talk about, Lily Tino is that person who is deserved of at least some form of hate. Not in the hate in which what she's talking about with the trans problems, like getting called sir all the time. It's not really something that is fair or right, but she does deserve the hate. She deserves the hate in a righteous way for what she has done, not for who she is as a person.
Cut to a few weeks ago, Lily messaged me with the idea of, do you want to go on a work trip with me to Las Vegas? And I tell her immediately no, because I'm on a Canadian work permit. But then we hopped on a Discord video chat, and she was still really insistent on wanting me to get to the US ASAP so we could meet together. Meanwhile, I'm just wondering, why is she so urgent about this? Then she just pops out with a bait and switch of, oh, I wanted to actually go to Las Vegas to do OF content together. My wife is sitting literally right next to me. Lily is fully aware of my wife, JC, and how we're together and how we're monogamous.
And you see, that's really where the problem is. She was super pushy with it all. She tried to blow it onto her, and then it's all because the reason why she was being so pushy is because she wanted to create content with this person. Colleen does mention that she has been a fan, Lily Tino, for a long time of Colleen's content, so on OF at least, which is a very long-winded way of saying I fancy you, you know? But this adamance is also potentially a bit of arrogance on her part, knowing full well the kind of person she is because she's this big, amazing TikToker. And as Colleen said as well, it's like a sort of ignorance towards the situation because she knows full well about Lily Tino, but she sees the hate and she disagrees with the hate. And the hate is because so many people are, for example, misgendering her, making her glaze over the idea of that potentially Lily Tino has done something wrong and she might be a bit of a scab. And as this happens, she got exposed for that.
It's like if you had a coworker and they just randomly ask this to you. That's how it feels. It's very inappropriate. And listen, I have an OF too, but the thing is, collabs usually don't work this way. There's always a mutual respect there, and they both already know before the pitch even happens that both parties are even open to a collab.
So Lily just saw her and just presumed, which, as we saw earlier, was something that she is quite used to doing. Although she does OF work, which obviously in the nature of it is a bit more sexualized, just a tad. She liked the person and she was being pushed with her, and then in front of her wife, and they know full well that they're both monogamous, like, it just goes and says it, and I would not want to be a fly on the wall there. And although I do think with the nature of the work, it can make things a bit hard, what she did was obviously very much just glazing over the top and being pushy to try and get what she wants. This then led Lily Tino to respond to the allegations because these picked up quite a lot of traction, and it is very dismissive in nature.
So last April, I was going through a really tough time, something that actually I learned Colleen had also gone through before. She reached out, was really supportive, really nice. And honestly, her support was one of the reasons that I was able to pick myself back up and start creating again. From there, Colleen and her partner were super involved in our community. It was great to have them. Over time, we became friends. And like any friend, I would always post something nice in her comment section. I didn't have a crush on her. I was just a friend from the fan section saying, go Colleen.
Let's just ignore the fact that she has said that she is a big fan of the content, the specific OF content. Definitely didn't have a crush on her. I just really enjoyed the work that she did. I'm not sure that's how that works in sexual interactions.
Independent of Colleen, I recently decided to start making a new kind of content. One of the things that I thought would be helpful to kickstart that effort would be to collaborate with people in the same space. Colleen is in that space. For the record, collaborations are super common among any kind of social media creator, be it this kind of content or other kinds of content. I'd encourage you to think about all the times you've seen two content creators come together to partner on a video. It happens all the time.
As you can see here, she's playing it down by saying that, oh, well, this happens all the time, this sort of collaborations. Well, you knew full well that they were monogamous, so why? And this is why so many people within the transgender, like, influencer space especially as well, dislike her, because of the way that she plays down almost every situation.
Not to mention, I thought her content was awesome and I really admired her for it, and I would have loved a chance to collaborate with her. Now, Colleen contradicts herself a couple of times over the course of her videos. In the first one, she talks about how we were discussing Las Vegas in the chat before I brought it up to her on the video call. That's not true. And in her second video, she contradicts it by saying that I brought it up to her for the first time on our video call. That's true.
So she contradicts herself multiple times, but then you show one point where she contradicts herself, and then the second point where she actually does the truth. I'm not sure that's multiple contradictions. I feel like that's another downplayment of what's going on.
I didn't know that this was something that bothered Colleen or her partner. They did not tell me that it bothered them until weeks later when I received a DM from her partner, which Colleen also mentioned in her video. I immediately apologized over Discord message. I never got a response, and the next day they posted the video.
I don't know about this one, Chief. As you can see, yeah, she did apologize, but like the request was very much a business proposal to grow our mutual followings and generate revenue together. That's not really what it is it? Because at the face of it, what you are doing is OF content, so it's not just that, is it? For them, Colleen, to ignore it and then go and post a video about it is a little bit weird, but at the same time, I can kind of understand why she's gone down that avenue. As she said in the video, she wants to try and help at least one person, so she's done that definitely by exposing what had happened here.
To recap, I never had a crush on Colleen. I saw her as a friend. I asked her if she and her partner wanted to come to Vegas. She said no. I said okay and moved on. This whole situation is something out of nothing. And the saddest thing is that people will believe what she's saying just because they don't like me and they want it to be true. I would have much rather dealt with this personally, one-on-one, but she didn't allow for that to happen. So here I am, speaking my piece. Thank you.
Well, obviously, you would want to sort this out privately so it doesn't go public. Like, that's so obvious. But to go and then say, finally, that this is something about nothing is just totally dismissive of the entire situation and how Colleen actually felt around the situation. I also do feel like this was an intentional bait to get her to respond even further by saying stuff like that. Like, it's very evident from looking at the way that Colleen had handled the situation that she was very upset by it. So for Lily to be like, yeah, this is nothing, it's just embarrassing. Once again, further highlighting her as the scab that she is. Colleen then did go and respond, and since then there has not been a response from Lily. So I wonder what's happened, because these two videos prove further that Lily's chatting out her ass.
She also wanted an exact timeline of when she thought I would be able to do it. And I said probably 8 months or so, but I thought it was weird to even ask.
Like, this is the thing. I find it a bit weird because she is being so pushy with it. And the reason why she's being so pushy with it is because she definitely knows what she's going to be saying next. She just wants to try and hide it, which is why it's such a problem.
Lily went on to mention how it would benefit us both financially, which I call BS on that part because I'm much more successful on that platform than her, no offense.
That's not really a point because it's the TikTok, it's the size of TikTok, what would bring forward, but I kind of get her.
So before I even went public with this, I got JC to message Lily for me, telling her how upset I was and how I didn't even want to be around. And JC did mention the OF part. So this kind of confirms that Lily does know about that if she ever tries to deny it again, which she did. Her apology was really just like, yeah, it was just for work. But no, I know that wasn't the case.
It's just so evident to me that Lily was pushing for it, and there's nothing wrong in a sense of just admitting you're wrong in this situation, but she refuses to admit she's wrong ever because it farms engagement. But then, obviously, it gets even worse.
Lily failed to mention that she led me into a Discord call under false pretenses when her real motives were to film porn with me. If she were upfront, I would have said no immediately.
And that's the thing, innit? She's hiding behind a veil, like the entire way through, and she's being super dismissive with it now.
Lily was trying to sanitize the entire situation to make herself seem innocent. But the reason I even went public was because I knew that immediately after I went public, Lily would publicly act like this.
Right? And also, I had no idea they were monogamous. Most trans people I know are poly. So let's say, okay, she's monogamous, and she could have just said no.
Which obviously is just such an insane and dismissive statement. Oh, so because they're trans, they must be poly. What an assumption that I just made. Almost like when you assume other waiters' genders when you get misgendered yourself. It's just insane. It's just mental that she would bring out these massive generalizations about people which are in the trans community as part of the trans community. The way that your gender resonates with yourself has nothing to do with the fact of whether you're monogamous or not. What even is that? To say she's such a trans ally and learner, she might need to be learnt a few things herself.
Last week, I was contacted by another victim named Cassie, who was tied up in this entire Vegas situation too. Her situation's very similar to mine, except for her, Lily stalked, groomed, and refused to take no for an answer countless times, to the point where on Lily's live streams, I was tricked because Lily was publicly saying that she already had someone to go to Vegas with her after I said no, referencing Cassie. Turns out Cassie never said yes.
So I've been trying to say no, and she keeps pushing for it.
Which, once again, yeah, oh, don't worry, I've got loads of other people to go with me. And it turns out it's someone who is being actually forced into doing it. Not only showing that she is like this with multiple people, but also showing that this is a very big theme. She's a very pushy person. And I don't know what it is. I think it's because she comes towards them trying to be some sort of like trans ally because they are both transgender people. And then it turns out that she is actually just trying to force you to do something and hiding under this fake pretense. But just why would you be so pushy with it? It's so weird. And it's no wonder, especially with more stuff that are even coming after this, that she acts like this and people disfranchise her from being in the trans community. Because she sets such a terrible example for everyone else around her.
One of the primary reasons that Cassie said no was because of medical reasons. Lily would try to be like, oh, why don't you stop this medication? Why don't you stop that medication? Lily, someone should not have to stop their medication to have sex with you.
I don't even know. Why would you be doing that? Why would you beg someone to stop using their medication that helps them so that you can end up like clotting? What? That's like levels of like emotional manipulation that what? It's so insensitive. It's so morally wrong. And I can't believe that anyone would even suggest that. And they're doing this in private. They're doing this in private in front of everyone. And because it's another creator who's also a trans ally, I feel like she's kind of thinking that, oh, well, they won't tell. Ended up really well for you, didn't it, Lily?
Lily had subscribed to her OF for months prior, told people in the Discord, including me, about Cassie herself. And when Cassie was being called out by Chris Tyson on Twitter for being too trans, which I think is freaking ridiculous, Lily swooped in all friendly, saying, come to our Discord server. We're friendly here. We'll understand you. And then not too long after, asked her to go to Vegas to do porn with her.
And there you go. She's doing this sort of stuff to come across as a nice, friendly ally, and then turns out, well, I'm using you for one thing. I only want one thing. I'm just trying to be a nice guy about it. It's just so insensitive, so wrong, and I can't believe that she would even say that. What is she doing? So if you didn't think she was inappropriate before, she's definitely inappropriate now. And if you didn't think that at this point, well, this is on her actual TikTok, like her main TikTok, right next to all of the videos where she's like doing this spoof to look after children.
Wait. I have a really important announcement. I promise this will take 2 seconds, okay? You ready? They bounce. Am I right? Crazy.
Yeah, you did just witness that with your own eyes. I'm sorry. And this is my problem with her. On the surface of what she's doing there, it's not really that bad, really. It's well, I mean, it's bad to look at, but it's not harming anyone. But when you double it down with all of the rage bait that she's doing, and then also all of this stuff to do with the children's stuff on the same page, it really comes across as very odd. To be honest, I don't know why there aren't any laws around it. And before we move along and go on to the Disney situation, which was a couple of weeks ago, that was terrible as well, and she did end up getting cancelled for it, I thought you might want to see just one more inappropriate thing that she's posted.
Ooh.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
I don't think seeing yourself get your wax done on your bollocks was really something that I wanted to see. Just how inappropriate, how wrong, and how weird is this when you consider everything around it. But now we go into one of the hard hitters that really did end up getting her somewhat cancelled, because it actually ended up on mainstream news, where, as I showed earlier in another clip, she was at Disney and she started talking about her surgeries that she was doing whilst she was around a load of kids. Not really the smartest optics. I'm not really sure why she chose to do this, but she's done it anyway.
I'm gonna get banned from Disney. I swear, we're about to get banned from Disney. Last summer, I got my kick pops removed, and the plan up until recently was to get my marshmallow wand reconfigured into a marshmallow tunnel. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, I noticed some hair regrowth on my marshmallow wand. That's bad, because the outside of the wand is what becomes the inside of the tunnel.
It's just the way that it's described around a load of kids as well, talking about these sort of surgeries, which, I mean, they don't need to know whatsoever. For sure, they can understand around trans people and trans issues, but I don't think they want to be hearing in child's terms around getting surgeries to get your knob chopped off. I feel that's where the line crosses into just craziness. Also, marshmallow tunnel. Marshmallow tunnel? Come on, we're better than this.
But my hair removal technician thinks it will be before the end of the year. So, fingers crossed. What's up?
Eating it afterwards a little bit weird. You just explained that it's, you know, I feel there's better ways that you could be explaining it, maybe as a person, but this is what she's doing. She's doing it as a childish thing, and as childish as you can make it, because it gets attention. She's out in Disney. She's making a point out of it. It's rage bait at the end of the day, and it's all of it is rage bait. So feeding into it only really annoys me, really, to have to do that, but obviously it's wrong. As I said, this got onto the mainstream news, as you can see here with the Daily Mail, my cake pop penis. And it's just the tiniest bit wrong, innit? It's quite wrong. Kids need to be learning about these sort of issues without the intricacies of things like surgeries, that sort of stuff, because why do they need to know the intricacies of that? When they're at the right age, they can go down that path themselves and find out. They don't need to be told by a woman that also does OF content on the same page that this is the way to do it. Kids want to eat marshmallow ones. They don't want to imagine them as something else that they're definitely not. And that's the other thing as well. I feel like she does sexualize this as well, which, I mean, it's not really anything to do with sex. It's just a very weird situation. But why does Lily do this? And obviously the main thing is for views and attention, but why? Because surely you would think that with the way that she does stuff, people would turn away, but obviously not. That doesn't happen. At least in quite a few cases, considering the size of her content and the reach that she has. And in my opinion, from having a look, it's so that she could sell more stuff, like with the OF content, but also she she was doing something a couple of months ago which has surprisingly just disappeared away from her content, which I found on a web archive around what she actually wants to do, which is one-on-one counselling as a transgender inclusivity service. So yeah, as you can see on this, which has been deleted, it mustn't have got much traction, to be fair, but she's obviously trying to sell this sort of stuff. Transgender inclusivity services with a trans one-on-one virtual session, one-on-one counselling, inclusivity consultation, and partnered post. And the partnered post is a little bit of a weird one. So you want counselling and then also pay me so that you can be promoted on my page? That is a bit weird, isn't it? And obviously, as you can see here, Lily streams daily on TikTok, creating a safe space for queer people and allies. I'm not really sure it's a safe space, especially seeing as a lot of trans people are turning against you, and it's definitely not a safe space for children. With her becoming a leading voice of the trans community and is committed to helping normalise transgender people in the workplace. But it's evident to me with this one-on-one service, she is trying to make money from this. Trying to sell her courses, and that's totally fine, but I mean, come on, look at what you're doing. And I don't understand why you would want to work with her, but even companies are working with her. And another thing is crypto, because she works at Ryu Games, which is something for a cryptocurrency, which is, I don't even know from looking at it. The problem is with all of these sort of companies, they all seem to just mold into one. But obviously she's been brought on as like someone who can massively influence for good or for bad this game by being there. And she will be getting paid a lot, because a lot of these cryptocurrencies, they pay a lot of money to people when they're starting up. That's the entire point. They make a lot of money at the start, so then they want to give it away so that everyone can get onto a good start with them. Also, how she tries to rinse her viewers for monetary gain is through a wish list, which is always a good start, with stuff like roller skates, lingerie, and then the odd Amazon gift card with the comment saying, "Thank you so much for your support. Buy me things from this in the wish list. Help me create content full time." And quite honestly, I can't imagine why roller skates would make you any better at creating content, but that might just be me. As well as obviously having a Patreon, because who doesn't have a Patreon at this point in this sort of genre? With the memberships going up to 64 quid a month, with the minimum being £8.50. Looking at the fact that she gets between 2 and 10 likes on each post, you can probably guess that she's not making a lot of money from this, but it's there in case she needs it. But to me, all of this does is just prove the fact that she's doing this to try and get attention to her stuff, so then people will go and click onto her extra bits. This is all totally intentional. It's meant to be there, and it really does leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth when you realise the depths that she's going to do this stuff. One of the other massive things that she was getting dogged on for was around the situation of misgendering people posthumously. So as in, they've already conked out, they're now 6 feet under, and she's deciding to gender them, which is brilliant because, as she says, use gender-neutral pronouns. And I don't need to tell you how weird this is. Why would you sort of question whether someone's trans or not when they haven't said it when they're alive? But this is what she does, and it's what gets her the attention. And there's an example here with Kurt Cobain.
I bet you didn't know that Kurt Cobain was probably trans. Here's why.
Well, he's just not.
Kurt wore a lot of women's clothing. And when asked about this, they replied that they wore dresses all the time because they felt comfortable and free. And just look at Kurt in these pictures. They look so happy.
Just a ridiculous sentiment and statement. I think you'll find in the 90s when punk was really becoming a massive thing, it was a massive thing to actually go out and dress in dresses like as a man. It's like a gender neutral sort of thing. The entire point of it was to defy gender norms. So for her to say, well, he had a couple of dresses that he wore, it means nothing. How about every other single punk band that did the exact same thing, like Placebo, and no one said anything? Maybe that's just the entire point of what they do.
And in an interview about their childhood, Kurt said that they mostly hung out around girls, and that at one point, they thought they might be gay.
Obviously rage bait, because it doesn't matter if you're gay, it doesn't mean that you're trans in any way, shape or form, and you can get along with women better than men sometimes. What's wrong with that?
Kurt is also quoted as saying that they identify more with the feminine than with the masculine. This is clear proof that Kurt did not identify with the gender they were assigned at birth.
Clear proof. Clear proof. It's just not, is it? Just totally going against what they're actually saying and just presuming. Obviously just presuming. And he can't clap back because he's in the gutter, bless him.
And the most convincing evidence that Kurt was trans was in an early version of Nirvana's All Apologies lyrics, where Kurt wrote, "Let me grow some." That is clear-cut gender dysphoria. And of course, Kurt will never be able to tell us themselves, but the evidence makes it pretty obvious they were trans.
Really doesn't make it obvious at all. Kurt Cobain did say that he potentially is gay, but what does that have to do with him being trans? It doesn't mean anything. And also, the lyric that she's referencing is a lyric from like the early 90s in a very early release song that didn't actually end up getting released. But that doesn't prove anything. It could be a metaphor. It's just so insufferably dumbfoundingly stupid to have to say this sort of stuff just for attention so that you could get people to look at your stuff. And I know it's rage bait and it's pissing me off, so it's working. This was another straw that broke the camel's back for her, because there was a load of responses, especially from the trans community around this, such as this one here from Cara Cunningham.
I bet you didn't know that Kurt Cobain was probably trans.
You make countless videos about how it's not okay to assume one's gender, but now we're okay with assuming someone had gender dysphoria who's no longer here with us.
And the thing is, Cara, she didn't just talk about gender dysphoria, she outright said he was trans, which to me is the entire point, because he did say that he did struggle sometimes with fitting himself inside the manly box. It's just so insensitive. And as you saw at the start of the video, she was saying to use gender neutral pronouns and to not misgender anyone just in general. But you are going out there and you're doing that purposely to try and rage bait people. As you see, the entire thing is just, okay, fair enough, because that's all you can really say about it. And it's very telling, isn't it, that multiple people who are also trans have totally gone against her, because she is just so ignorant with it, so stupid with it, and it's all for attention. And there's another example here. After the backlash that she had in the first one, she had to double down with another one on Abraham Lincoln, because she's all good at spreading positive vibes and this sort of thing, as long as it's entirely fake.
Did you know that Abraham Lincoln was queer? Sure, he was married to a woman eventually, but he had 2 male partners before that.
Which, I mean, is potentially true, but it was part of the rumour mill at the time, so I don't know if this is real. You're more just suggesting the fact that this actually did happen when it might not have done. Just note this time as well, she's gone for someone who is queer, who is potentially a gay person, and nothing to do with the trans stuff as before, because it backlashed so badly.
But ultimately, Lincoln's queerness does not change his greatness as a leader. Lincoln did incredible things for America when being queer wasn't even really a label. It was just people being people.
Well, no, Lily Tino, to say that you're so knocked up on history, I think you would know that being queer was definitely an illegal thing back then. It's not really just people being people. It was, if you do that, you're going to prison. Once again, just totally overskirting the entire thing and just trying to generalize, and it really does seem like it's rage bait once again, but at least she's not gone for the trans arc, because now that would have been a massive lie. There's been a lot of backlash to Lily Tino around everything she's been doing, and a lot has also come from the trans community, as I said, and there's a couple of instances here over the past couple of months where it's really been shown and proven that you are a terrible influence on the trans community as a whole. Yes, Lily Tino is a trans person, so you see all of these transphobic comments and things like that, and they are terrible, but with a lot of what I've seen with some trans people talking about her, it is really a product of her environment, in that she is feeding this hate, which is then leading to people to be more hateful and vengeful towards trans people. A classic case of the 1% ruin it for the 99%. And this is set out brilliantly by I'm Vargas, who is another trans creator.
Last summer, I got my cake pops removed, and the plan up until recently was to get my marshmallow wand reconfigured into a marshmallow tunnel.
You whine and complain when you get misgendered in public, and somehow you think that talking about this in front of children is okay. I am a trans woman and I get it. Educating people may be an important thing, right? But there is a time and a place for that.
And that definitely is the entire point with me. There is a time and a place for you to be educating people, and it's also the way that you educate them. And doing something like this in Disney in front of a load of children and then promoting it as a sort of child-friendly sort of thing is the entire point and problem.
Not around children. You clearly are holding up a stick and two balls, okay? And what irks me the most is that people like you become the face of the trans community, and then we get compared to you guys. We are nothing alike.
And that's the other massive point that is brought up by multiple other trans creators. It's the fact that, well, we are nothing alike to you, but we get compared to you. If she becomes the face of the trans community, which, bear in mind, she is a massive, large creator in general, everyone's going to look at her stuff, they're going to see what she's like, and they're going to think, hell, she's horrible. And because of that, it does somewhat put a terrible stain on the entire trans community and the entire amount of trans people, because the majority of trans people, actually almost all of them, are not like this. She's terrible, and because of that, it promotes more hate, which then also promotes more hate to other creators who are also trans. It's a cyclical cycle, and it's horrible.
We have fought for our place in this world, and somehow you guys come around and transition 1 year later, and I'm a full-blown woman, this, and respect me, but then you're doing shit like this in public. Make that make sense. How do you want to be respected when you're doing stuff like this around people's children? Stop doing that, please.
And exactly that. She is doing this sort of stuff in public. It's terrible. It's wrong. And it's so inappropriate. So for her to actually go and do this stuff all the time and then keep going and doing it is even worse. And I know it's a rage bit, like I said, but it doesn't mean that it's right in a sense of she can kind of get away with it. It is by actual de facto actually destroying a lot of the problems that are going on. It feeds transphobia. It feeds trans hate, and it's disgusting. And that's why she needs to leave. And because of this, it causes a lot of tension, not only within communities outside of the trans community, but also inside, with people then actually making this hate go even further. With a Redditor here saying, being trans is already a very difficult thing. I'm sure as many of you know, people like Lily really hurt this community. Personally, I would use the pronouns she, her for Lily, because I do not believe they're transgender. And although I disagree with that point, because just on the face of it, why would you get your cake pops removed, right? But I feel like as a trans person, you should be accepting to people who are also within your same community, at least on the face of their gender. Turn it into a shouting match of, oh, you're not trans, really just peddle even more hate, and this is the problem. And obviously there is just hate from her because of how she is as a person, with this person saying, I can't express how sick Lily makes me feel, and it makes me so upset that they are trying to represent the community this way. It's a terrible state of affairs. It only gets worse as you go on, and as she tries to get more desperate for views, and she is just a terrible person. Actually, to the point where she was disrespecting not only the people around her in this sense of just being really outlandish, but also the mods that are around her in her Discord. Because obviously, as being a little bit of a creature that Lily is, having a Discord is going to be the best thing possible. And this led her to a point of actually having a break because of how bad it went. With one of her mods saying here, after thinking about the interaction for a while, I left and blocked her. I did a little bit of trolling on this subreddit before, but I had no idea how much of a genuine problem Lily is. I'm trans, I'm disabled, my voice matters too. And once again, it proves Lily to be a very insensitive person, acting like she cares about all these issues and then just pissing all over the fire. I'm sorry to even ask this because of the source where it's being said, but did you sit at a handicap table yesterday? Yes. Can I ask you why before you say anything? It was slow, and I've sat there many times before. It's the same thing as parking in like a disabled parking spot. Why would you do that? Like, what? Why? You're not a disabled person, so there's no need for you to be going there, even though it's quiet. Like, what? It's more about the principle of it. That's a handicapped space for a reason. Do you ever use handicap stalls in the bathrooms? Yes, because I'm disabled? Okay. I think the disabled toilet is a little bit of a different one because sometimes you need to go in there, and also for women, it's like baby changing places, which are also doubled up as disabled toilets. Then apologising for the situation in general and saying, okay, I've gathered my thoughts on this a bit, thanks for waiting. It was only 20 minutes. I don't know how that's gathering your thoughts. You barely even had time to think. Then saying, yeah, of course, I thought about it and I apologise, I won't sit there in future, which is a good sign. But then she says at the bottom, after the response saying, I'm sorry to hear that, I didn't mean to be disrespectful. Do you want me to remove you from the mod squad /server? Which is just insane to me, because what she's done is there's someone who has come to her and said to her that you've probably done this thing. She's then admitted to the fact of doing it, apologised, and then be like, all right then, shall I kick you? The entire point of a moderator is to moderate, and if it's moderating your actions because you're too stupid to understand what you're doing potentially could be wrong, that's fair enough. Why would you need to kick the person now because they've stood up to you? That's the entire point, innit? Stood up to you. Her excuse to this was, it's not that you can't speak up, your tone suggests you have a bigger issue to me than sitting in a handicap table. And I want to know how she can work out the tone of someone when they're not even speaking, they're just texting. That's definitely a first to me. I've never heard of that in my life. It's just so weird. It's just not right, is it, to be like this at all? It's just not objectively looking at situations and thinking they're fine. You're just skirting over the surface and just going with what flows. How she could have ever thought this could be potentially not insensitive, I don't know. She's clearly a very smart person. This, along with the Disney stuff a couple of months ago, led her to actually go and quit and just give up for now, because all of her mods ended up leaving her because they realised what she was doing with the Disney stuff was very, very bad. She comes out with a statement in a Discord server saying that she's going to step away from TikTok and streaming for now. Well, that lasted long, didn't it? She literally blinked and she was back, and she was back better than ever because she then had an OF, as well as this one-to-one counselling service, which also makes me think, potentially, did she think, have a little bit of a scare, realised I might not actually have that long here, and then decided to try and make as many revenue streams as she can so she can get maybe a year or two out of it and make some dough. Thank you for everyone who has supported me over the past year and a half. This isn't goodbye, it's just the start of a new chapter. Love you all so much. And that new chapter was trying to rinse fans, and they're becoming even more insensitive, if you could imagine it. The insensitiveness has been in her blood the entire time, and it's easy to see here as to why.
This surgery is going to take my cake pop stick, hollow it out, flip it inside.
Sorry, one of the comments said, is it normal in USA to speak a lot and loud on public transportation?
Like, legit, she's on a bus. She's on a bus and she's talking about getting a cake pop done in. Like, how grim is that? Why do the public need to be just hearing about you saying about how you're having this surgery? Like, I don't know. There's private times for a reason. Lily Tino really does just burn every bridge that she gets to, and because of this, she has obviously now been more or less kicked out of the trans community, because not a lot of trans creators actually respect her to any point, and not a lot of people who aren't trans don't respect her as well. She's so loud, she's so obnoxious, she's constantly getting into more and more scandals by trying to be more outlandish and outlandish and outlandish every time because content sells. And the worst bit for me is that she's hiding all of this situation that is going on around the idea that she is this, this normal person. She's just this friendly, inclusive person, but that's not the case, is it? You talk about being misgendered, then you misgender other people, especially even posthumously. You apologise, then go back on your apology, and then apologise and go back on your apology again, and you're a terrible excuse for a creator on a platform, only damaging the trans community, the amount of brilliant, good people that are in there, all for the sake of maybe getting a couple items on your wish list and selling a couple of Patreons. What do you lot think? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed, I would love for you to hit the like button and subscribe. I've been Jake Bars, and I'll see you later. Take care.